Today we are stepping into Empress energy. Hello, hi, I'm Angela and this is La Luna Ray. Welcome back into my space and my energy. Thank you so much. If you're continuing with my tarot series, if you've already listened to the Fool card, if you've already listened to the Magician, the High Priestess, then you are right where you belong, here in the Empress energy with me. I love the Empress energy because it is the quintessential of divine femininity. So the Empress is brought to you by the planet Venus, and Venus represents love, romance, beauty. That space is exactly where the Empress resides. The zodiac sign represented is actually two. So you've got Taurus and Libra. So Taurus energy, that's earth, and then Libra is air. Now that earth energy really brings out the natural beauty that the Empress card kind of represents. And then the air sign, Libra, represents harmony, balance, partnership. And so there's also that ability to bring things together in order to manifest. What other qualities does the Empress have? She is, like I said, the quintessential of divine femininity. She is going to show out, she is exuding creativity. She is exuding goddess energy. See, she's even showing some motherhood in this space as well. So there's quite a few things that is being brought forth in this card. And let's look at the card together so we can see all the pieces. So behind her, she's got this very luscious forest. It's very green and healthy and dense. And behind her, like in the forest, you can kind of see a river that is coming out and a waterfall. And really, she has this water that she's sitting just above, right? So it's almost like the waters from the High Priestess card, how the High Priestess card had that subconscious, intuitive energy. Well, now those waters are filtering down into this card, into the Empress space. And she's using that water of life to feed her garden. That water is also feeding that forest that's behind her and that very abundant wheat field that is in front of her. She is just surrounded by a lush garden, and she sits on a very, very comfortable throne. Very, very Taurus. It's very aesthetically pleasing. Everything is very cushiony, I want to say. She has what appears to be a heart-shaped shield at her feet that has the Venus sign on it. And she also has a pillow that's behind her that has the Venus sign written on it multiple times. On her head, she's got a crown. So she's got a crown of 12 stars on her head and a pearl necklace that has 9 pearls. So there's some significance there. The 9 pearls, and it does depend on the tarot deck that you're looking at, because I feel like just certain decks don't depict all of the pearls appropriately. My particular deck, and I don't know if this is easy to see, but if you look at the pearls on her necklace and count them out, it is 9. So the 9 pearls represent the 9 planets. I understand that Pluto is, they go back and forth whether it's a planet or not, a dwarf planet, what have you. But in astrology, Pluto is very important. And so Pluto is still considered a planet in our spiritual space. And that represents, like I said, the 9 planets, the 9 pearls, 9 planets, the 12 stars on her crown. It's the 12 zodiac signs. So 12 is a very important number in many religions. And so basically what you're having here is 12 zodiac signs, kind of like the 12 houses of astrology. Also those 9 planets. Basically, she's wearing the universe. And so she is the goddess of not just divine femininity, but really ushering in life into the universe. She really is, I don't know, almost that pivotal piece of the construction of humanity and of the universe, if you can follow what I'm trying to say there. On her gown, it's covered in pomegranates. Pomegranates love to make their way all over the tarot. So pomegranates is represents, again, femininity. It also represents that lusciousness of femininity too, because that gown, as you can see, is a little oversized because she is seen as being perpetually pregnant, perpetually bringing forth and at the cusp of bringing forth life into this world and into this space. And so it's, when you see this card, it can kind of mean, there is instances where it can mean pregnancy, but that is not always the case, and that's rarely the case. In fact, I think one time I continually read a friend of mine for a few months. This card kept coming up and I kept saying, you know, it looks like baby. It just, all I keep saying is baby for you. That's all I keep saying. It was the first and only time I've ever said that. And she was pregnant within 4 months of me doing, it was like 2 or 3 readings where I was like, man, I keep saying baby for you. That time it was true. But it wasn't just this card. It was a few other things happening around this card that kept pointing it that direction. Anyway, so yes, it can mean that, but most of the time it's not about that. It's mostly about creativity, beauty, self-love, kind of just tapping into that beautiful feminine space of yourself. And when I talk about, now that I'm getting into feminine and masculine energy, I want to also stress that when I speak of these energies, I am not talking about structural. I'm not talking about just, I don't know, the gender you were born under. That has nothing to do with masculine and feminine energy, because first of all, we all, whether you were born called a girl or born called a boy, that has nothing. We are all born with masculine and feminine energy. All of us possess masculine and feminine energy. So that has nothing to do with it. Really, what I'm trying to stress here is really that whichever energy you exude the most, whichever one you feel comfortable in. Even a woman who feels that she is very comfortable in her feminine energy, even if you take away and give her a hysterectomy, give her a mastectomy, does that mean that she is no longer divinely feminine? Absolutely not. That has nothing to do with it. Just because you had to take certain things away from her due to illness or what have you, does not mean that she loses her womanhood. That's not at all the case. And that's also the case if you were not born with breast tissue or with a womb. That doesn't mean that you cannot exude feminine energy, because you absolutely can, to a T, perfectly. So anyway, that's just my blurb on energy as far as masculine and feminine. So continuing on. One thing I do want to talk about this card that I find actually very, very, very important. It's so interesting to me. I find how this card arrives so interesting because she is the number 3. When you look at the top of the card, you are looking at the number 3. Now, if you remember, the Magician was number 1 and the High Priestess was number 2. So let's just do a quick recap so we understand where we're at right now as far as energetically speaking. You're sitting, when you start with the Fool, you're starting with unconscious energy that just has a ton of potential but not tapped into yet. So then you move on to the Magician, number 1. And the Magician energy, that is conscious energy. That's energy that's actually been turned on. You've gotten the lightning strike from the gods, and now you are aware. You are finally turned on and able to process. And then the High Priestess, number 2. She is that subconscious energy. She is really the subconscious part of the mind, the intuitive part of yourself, just kind of that deeper, more spiritual realm that's more connected with God. So now that those two, and remember how she had that Virgin Mary, when you look at that card, she has such a Virgin Mary look to her, doesn't she? She just exudes that. So now we are melting in that conscious and subconscious energy. Those two things are coming together where we were having masculine and feminine energy in both of the cards, with the palm trees and the pomegranates, and with the roses and the lilies. I'm sorry, my son is on spring break and he's playing whatever games they play that require them to yell at each other. I don't know. Not yell at each other, but like, I don't know. It's like they're screaming because they're about to, I don't know. Not sure. But if you hear him, he's back there. So nobody's getting hurt. He's just playing whatever they play. So, and just recall all that masculine and feminine energy with the roses and the lilies, masculine feminine energy in the drape behind her with the pomegranates and the palm trees. That was that masculine and feminine energy, but it was still separated. They weren't connected yet. Well, now the 1 of the Magician card plus the 2 of the High Priestess card makes 3, and 3 represents the unity of those two, bringing you the Empress. So the Empress is literally that masculine and that feminine energy starting to melt together. Those energies together come forth with the creation of life that we see in the Empress card. That's why she's seen as being perpetually pregnant, because now she is no longer sitting in that virginal High Priestess space. Now we are sitting in a space of perpetual fertility, where we are perpetually pregnant. Pregnant with what? Pregnant with anything that you want to bring forward. It doesn't have to be actual human life. It can be a project. It can be a new career. It can be an actual just beauty. Sometimes when I want to do glamour work, I like to put this card up because this represents bringing beauty into the world, bringing in that goddess energy into your space. And so really, it's about when you want to tap into your own personal creative juices, and especially when you want to express even just self-love and self-caring for yourself, and nurturing not just the space around you and those around you. And that's kind of that Libra energy, isn't it? When you're hosting a party and you are walking among your guests and you're making sure everybody's having a good time and there's harmony. When I see this card in a reading, I know that it means that this person is either tapping into their creative energy or they are bringing something forward. Now is the best time to bring something forward. If you've got something on your mind that you think you want to start working on and building in your life, whether it's career-wise, it could be love-wise, it could be anything. In reverse, this card can represent over self-indulgent energy, very reminiscent of spoiling a child, because this card represents energy that is perpetually abundant, perpetually surrounded by lush gardens and abundant vast fields. That means that nothing really ever spoils because it's perpetually ripe, unless the card is in reverse. So in reverse, or if it's surrounded by negative cards, you're actually looking at a space that has spoiled over, and the garden is untamed and unruly, and you can't get past and get through. There is no ease. There's nothing attractive about it. It's just sitting in a state of decay, honestly. That is the shadow side of the Empress card. Also, it can kind of lean even the other way, where things are barren. There is nothing being created. The land is untillable. You cannot grow anything in it. I mean, this is just sitting in a spot where nothing will grow. So that is the other side of the spectrum when you're talking about this card in shadow. The other thing I want to mention, this card in shadow, is mother energy. So this card does have mother energy for sure. The Empress represents mother energy. And it can literally be either your mother or whoever in your life you would consider your mother, or just, you know, someone that has motherly energy and is someone who is very present in your life. This card can represent that person. I've seen it in readings represent motherly energy. And in a few times I've seen it represent negative motherly energy. And we have to remember that a mother that is way too involved, has her hands way too much in your life, that isn't good. That creates toxic energy. I hate using that word, honestly, but it's true. It does create toxic energy, and it actually can hinder the child, not just spoil the child, but almost hinder the growth of a child. And when you have a child that doesn't form a healthy relationship with their mother, they start to grow unhealthy or develop unhealthy relationships with other people around them. And they start to even have an unhealthy relationship with themselves. And so now they're starting to deal with things like anxiety or depression or what have you, because their interpersonal relationships with themselves and with others is now completely misaligned, because the energy with their mother, whoever they looked to as their mother, either she wasn't there or she wasn't good when she was there. And so that's misaligned. And so every relationship beyond her, they have to work that much harder to make sure that it's aligning properly. It's not that they can't do it later on, but it is probably going to be more work later on to recognize when another relationship that they're developing is healthy or unhealthy. Just knowing how to put those pieces of their lives together can be harder. And so that energy is definitely in this card, that motherly energy. And you really do want to look at the surrounding cards to kind of understand what that mother energy is bringing into the person you're reading for, what that energy is bringing into their lives, and really how it's making its connections in other aspects of their lives. So that is Empress energy. Now the Empress is very, very, very closely tied to Emperor energy. And so I definitely want to talk about the Emperor while I'm talking about the Empress. So the Emperor energy, this man right here,